Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Tagai. Well, the world shook today thanks to what went down in the White House. There is truths trying to be exposed, and the media is doing its best to make sure you don't know about them. After all, like a good socialist or liberal would say, if you repeat the same thing over and over, the masses will soon believe it. There was a lot that went down in the entirety of the meeting. And the media is doing what they do best by giving sound bites and vid clips that they can pick without showing you their homework, without showing you the entire story. This is how propaganda works. Trust me, I know about it. I've studied it for decades. We're going to start off with the media. And then we're just going to let the entire video, I'll cut pieces of it, to completely debunk them. And then we're going to move on and get much deeper in a short amount of time. Let's start with one of the worst news agencies that there are.
You're not acting grateful enough. You're not being thankful. Donald Trump to the leader of Ukraine. Joining our ongoing coverage, former United States Ambassador to the United Nations, former National Security Advisor to President Obama, Ambassador Susan Rice is here. Ambassador, your reaction.
Well, Nicole, obviously it's a very sad day and an embarrassment for the United States on the world stage. But let's step back and analyze what's happened here. I think there's no question that this was a setup. You heard Donald Trump say at the end of that clip you played, this is great television. This was a setup. Volodymyr Zelenzkyy was compelled to agree to a horrible deal that would have sent Ukraine's minerals to the United States without any concrete security guarantees. And yet, because he was trying to improve a relationship with Donald Trump, he came to Washington, he came to the Oval Office and sat down for a meeting, hat in hand. And soon after he got there, the vice president of the United States lit into him and started a confrontation. Now,
okay, did you get all that? I picked that clip because that's pretty much what all of mainstream legacy media is telling people. I'm going to play you a short clip of what happened earlier. Now you got to remember, this meeting was just over 55 minutes. The presser, the whole thing was like an hour and change. I've watched every angle through every agency that I could find that was there to make sure I could see all the body language. I could see all the people. I could hear all the words, and to make sure, which you have to do nowadays, that you get the whole story. So remember carefully what you just heard, and remember what all the mainstream is telling you. And I'm just going to go earlier and show you a small clip that'll debunk all of it.
And this puts us in great shape.
And long-term security for Ukraine. How does this provide it?
I think they're going to have great luck. I think once we make the agreement, that's going to be 95% of it. They're not going to go back to fighting. I've spoken with President Putin, and I feel very strong. I've known him for a long time, And I feel very strongly that they're very serious about it, and we'll make a deal. And when the deal is made, I don't think, we talk about security. Everyone's talking about the other day, all they talked about was security. I said, let me make the deal first. I have to make the deal first. I don't worry about security right now. We have to have a deal, because right now, last week, 2,000 soldiers died on both sides. 2,000. And they're losing 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 a week. So as we sit here and we talk, people are getting shot and dying on the battlefield. And, you know, they're not American soldiers, but they're Russian soldiers and they're Ukrainian soldiers, and we want to be able to stop it. And we want to be able also to spend money on other things. We don't want to, this is a tremendous amount of money. And what the Biden administration did was terrible. They were giving money, but he had no security on the money. Europe, as you know, gave much less money, but they had security. It was in the form of a loan. They get their money back, and we didn't. And now, at least we're protected, because the American taxpayer has to be protected too. But this is an incredible agreement for Ukraine, because we have a big investment in their country now, and what they have, very few people have. And we're able to really go forward with very, very high-tech things and many other things, including weaponry that we're going to use in many locations, but that we need for our country.
Mr. President,
This allows us to do that.
will you continue?
I'm sorry.
Military aid.
Yes, go ahead, please.
If I can just, yes. In the document, there is one of the very important points if we speak about business and investment. We never had LNG terminals in Ukraine. This document will open. I mean, the next documents, but anyway, here we see in the framework, we see a really goodwill for this. LNG terminals for us is very important, and I think for security of European continent. We have the biggest storage, gas storage. We have the biggest in Europe. Yes, yes, and we can use it. Use it for LNG. Use it for LNG, and we will do it. And really, we can help Europe, because Europe really helped. President Trump said that they made less support, but they are our friends, and they are our very supportive partners. They really gave a lot, Mr. President. They did.
They gave a lot, but they gave much less.
No.
Much less.
No. No.
No. Okay.
Okay. So, as for the setup, there is 32 minutes between the clip I just showed you and where the argument started. I urge you to watch the whole interview, like I always do. It'll be posted below. I am not even going to get started on 90% of the things I would like to bring forward to you in order to keep this video short, but I'm going to give you as much as I can to try and make sure that you understand what's going on. Doge is dropping bombshells. They're exposing everybody. Republican, Democrat, it don't matter. UN, NATO, they don't care. They want to rid the system of the corruption and the evil. It takes a lot of gonads to do what this administration is doing. They are saying he was pressured from the beginning. He wasn't. They are saying they're trying to steal his minerals. They're not. They're trying to secure a deal to try and get back the billions of dollars that Biden gave away. 356 or something that we know of, and we're exposing more and more every day through Doge, especially through US aid. As for Europe, Trump's job is to protect and serve the people of the United States of America. But if you listen to what Zelenskyy said, Trump in the deals, secured natural gas for Europe. Because he knows they're in the same situation that we are in Canada. You got to choose if you're going to heat or eat. He's doing this as a global leader, which is a far cry from what mainstream is letting you know about. I would play the argument, but it's going to take up too much time, and I have other stuff I'd like to kind of get out. But I will show you. Actually, you know what? I'm going to explain something. I watched every single news outlet's coverage of this. I spent hours and hours today. Hours upon hours. That's why my video was so late. And trying to make sure that I make a proper video, because this is a pretty deep subject. The body language from the beginning to the end from Zelenskyy and his entourage was very noticeable. It was becoming heightened as the presser went on, to the point where one of his entourage, I don't quite know who the lady is, I couldn't find that information, actually had her heads in her hands and was shaking her head because she saw not only did the administration know what's going on in Ukraine, but that they blew it because they pushed the narrative too far and got busted. If you want to watch the 7-minute clip, I'm sure it's on every news outlet. Most of them are only playing 2 or 3, or they're cutting segments out of it. I have the entire thing in the description below. But I also have the breaking videocast I put out earlier today. You can click on that and you can watch it as well. I'm going to move on to the end of the meeting, to where he kicks Zelenskyy and his entourage out. Listen carefully to what she says.
Yeah, I just went up to the press area to get an understanding of what we're watching. This is what I was told. The president has kicked Zelenskyy out of the White House. His delegation right now is telling him that he's got to go home. The president felt disrespected. Officials in the room felt that beyond the language barrier that we've heard some discussion about, Zelenskyy's body language, shrugging and eye rolling, was ungrateful, disrespectful, and the president feels that Zelenskyy is not ready for peace, and he can come back when he's ready to talk about peace, but he's not in that position right now, and Zelenskyy is being told he's got to go. The lunch that they...
Did you hear what she said? I caught all of that before she even came on. I was already going through clips and saying, wow, there's a lot of telltale signs here on what's going on. Because Zelenskyy knows the truth. He's just not letting the world know. He's hiding behind his mainstream media and all of the donors and hidden money and corruption that has been enabling him to get away with what he's doing. There is a video I urge you to watch. I brought it up in previous broadcasts, called Ukraine on Fire. I've studied Ukraine for decades. That documentary is as close to a textbook as you could possibly get, telling you the history and story of Ukraine. I urge you, no, I beg you, before you argue or jump or do anything crazy or incite any type of arguments with anybody, spend the time and watch that documentary. This is a clip of Trump after the presser, en route to go to a rally in Florida. Once again, listen very carefully to his words.
We had a meeting today, as you know, with President Zelenskyy, and I would say it didn't work out exactly great from his standpoint. I think he very much overplayed his hand. We're looking for peace. We're not looking for somebody that's going to sign up as strong power and then not make peace because they feel emboldened, and that's what I saw happening. I'm looking for peace. We're not looking to go into a 10-year war and play games. We want peace. And it was just my impression that if we do that, if we sign up, he's looking for something that I'm not looking for. He's looking to go on and fight. We're looking to end the death. 2,000 people died this week. Soldiers, more than that, but 2,000 approximately people died this week. Young Ukrainians and Russians. And somebody would say, why do you care about Ukraine and Russian soldiers? I care about them. I care about everybody. And we're not doing that. Now, if we don't do anything, he's going to have to make peace, but he's dealing with a very weak set of cards. If we sign, he's dealing with a very strong set of cards, and then he doesn't want to make peace. So that's where we are. It's very simple. I'm not looking to get into anything protracted. I want immediate peace. President Putin is going to want to make, and he wants to end it. And you saw what I saw today. This is a man that wants to get us signed up and keep fighting, and we're not doing that. Not for this country. So we're setting a lot of records.
Now, does that sound like a warmonger? Does that sound like somebody who is just looking out for his own interest? No. And you got to remember, this administration knows the evils of the administrations before. And it's not just Biden, although Biden was one of the worst, because Biden himself was completely inept, which made him easier to control and do the deeds that all of the war machine wanted. You may remember Burisma and the Biden family and Hunter's involvement. All of that was in Ukraine. That was their payoff to doing and allowing what the war machine wanted to do. Why would you hand out pardons to all of your family if they're innocent? He used his family, maybe wittingly, maybe unwittingly, to launder millions of dollars from the people of Ukraine. They were robbing Ukraine of its resources, the very thing they are accusing Trump and his administration of trying to do. Are you catching on? I want to show you a clip. This is really important. Listen very carefully to what he says. It'll piece a lot of what's happened in the last 8 or 10 years together, especially the last 4 years.
Honorable Mr. Trump, my name is Alexander Dubinsky, and I am a member of the Parliament of Ukraine. However, for the past 15 months, I have been unlawfully imprisoned on fabricated charges. My alleged crime was exposing corruption involving the Biden family. I was the first one who exposed this information in 2019, and I was labeled Russian agent for that. Today, hundreds of people in Ukraine are incarcerated not for any legitimate offense, but solely for their political beliefs. Their only guilt lies in speaking the truth, opposing Zelensky's administration, and calling for an end to the war. These individuals are subjected to arbitrary arrests torture, and politically motivated charges of treason, with judicial proceedings predetermined to serve political interests. Under Zelensky's leadership, Ukraine has dismantled independent courts, weaponized law enforcement institutions, and eliminated fundamental democratic processes. There are no free elections, no independent media, and no right to a fair legal defense. Instead, a climate of fear and repression prevails. Furthermore, during Zelensky's tenure, secret detention facilities operated by the Security Service of Ukraine, SBU, have emerged. These sites have been used for the illegal detention, coercion, and torture of individuals to extract forced confessions. The United Nations has documented the existence of at least one such illegal prison in Kiev, right in the headquarters of SBU, where since March 2022, approximately 300 individuals, including US citizens, have been held. Among them was American journalist Gonzalo Lira, who was unlawfully detained by SBU officers, held under inhumane conditions, and later died in December 2023 following beatings and extortion while imprisoned in the Kharkiv detention center. I have personally been subjected to physical assaults and torture on 2 occasions in prison in an attempt to coerce me into falsely confessing to alleged connections with Russian intelligence and to admitting that my 2019 expose of the corruption of the Biden family were part of a Russian intelligence operation. The true objective was to fabricate a false narrative linking your campaign, Mr. Trump, to Russia. In an effort to conceal the origins of this operation, these allegations were deliberately manufactured in Ukraine, intended to justify the failed 51 intelligence officials' letter and extend this false narrative into 2024. Ukraine has effectively been transformed into an instrument of political repression and external interference. President Zelenskyy and his administration act in the interests of globalist elites, Soros-affiliated NGOs, and USAID-funded NGOs and media, systematically dismantling democracy in Ukraine and suppressing political dissent. Nevertheless, I remain steadfast in my commitment to justice and democracy. Despite my imprisonment, I have filed a lawsuit with the Supreme Court of Ukraine, demanding the restoration of constitutional order through the scheduling of presidential elections. As a Ukrainian citizen, I have also officially declared my candidacy for the presidency. I am prepared to run as a candidate from the Party of Peace and fully support your vision for ending the war. Ukraine urgently requires a pathway to peace. Mr. Trump, I appeal to you as a leader who has consistently defended the principles of democracy and justice. I am providing a list of political prisoners, though this is only a fraction of those who have been unlawfully detained. I respectfully urge you to take all necessary measures to secure the release of these individuals, as well as all other victims of political persecution. Their plight represents a critical test of the principles of freedom and human rights. They should be free.
Imagine, if you will, go back in time. A young couple watching the world around them burn. War spreading from country to country until it reaches their borders. Before that, just before, they get flooded with propaganda. The papers are taken over and the agenda is changed. And a narrative of hate and divide is spread. A nasty campaign that turns countrymen and women against each other. Bloodshed starts to spill in the streets, gangs start to form, and soon the Nazis are in the heart of the homeland. They pack up what little they can and they flee. And they aim for the freest nation that they can get to as quickly as possible. And it ends up being Canada. Generations go by, moss grows on the tombstones, And the great-grandchildren grow up hearing stories of their past and of their homeland, their heritage, their ancestors. A few of them start to study their history and come across surprising information. They end up finding out that the master of the propaganda campaign is living in Canada, brought here by the Canadian government, given a new name, a fresh start. A lot more than what a starving family who watched their siblings get shot got when they got here. And time goes on. More studying, more learning, inquisitive nature. And one day, watching TV, they see the great-grandchild of this horrible man who has never been held to justice, running for office. And they win a seat. Now picture, if you can, that this member of parliament is best friends with the prime minister. And the prime minister gives her some of the most powerful seats and roles within parliament. And he watches as this MP stirs propaganda, hate, and division, puts its people in strife, in hardship, poverty. In the meantime, chanting how she loves the homeland and knows it so well and is the best suited for it, and goes there all the time, propping up the government, kill anybody or destroy anybody that touches Ukraine. And then imagine one day watching television and seeing that MP at a rally, at a march, at a demonstration, holding up a flag. The flag of the person responsible for the death, the murders, the rapes, and the atrocities done to their ancestors. And then you watch the media hide it from the people. A few media outlets reach out and raise enough of a stink that she actually does a reply. And what is the reply? I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was. And yet you were voted into that seat and given that position of power because you were best suited and knowledgeable on what was going on in Ukraine. Can you imagine the disgust that would do to anybody who witnesses the bloodline that caused so much terror to their ancestors get away with that in the country that's supposed to be free and democratic and the rule of law. And then that same person, to save their spine, turns their back on the prime minister and then takes a run for the most powerful seat in the country to be the prime minister herself in a party that has destroyed the country that we all love so much. I know one thing. My great-grandparents will smile the day peace is achieved in their homeland. They didn't have any hate. They didn't pass that down to any of us. We don't wish no harm or bloodshed on anybody. We wish justice. We just want peace. I urge you, I beg you to watch the documentary I attach in the description below. Only then can you have a small grasp of the knowledge needed to understand what is going on in Ukraine today. I'm not going to song out tonight. That'll be somber. I would like you to like, share, and subscribe. And if you are, punch that notification key so you don't miss any future episodes. Until the next time, you've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. And I'm your host, alias Guy.